I immigrated to the United States about 10 years ago and entered the workforce in 2017. The one thing after I came here I always wondered about is how do I get rich here? But I was asking the wrong question. The question I should have been asking is, how do I get wealthy here? You see, there is a key difference between being rich and wealthy. A person who is rich has a high income, but a person who is wealthy has a high amount of investments that generate him that income. There's a significant difference between being rich and wealthy. A rich person might have a substantial income, but how much of that income does he actually keep? Imagine if you stopped working and stopped making an income, then how long could you survive before you run out of money? The key to this indefinite income is to have income producing assets. This is why I divide my purchases into two categories. One is assets and the other one is liabilities. Let's say little Jimmy wants to buy a computer with a 4090 in it costing about $3,500. A year later, there's going to be a 5090 graphics card that's coming out. And now your 4090 graphics card isn't worth much. So technically your $3,500 computer is not going to be worth $3,500. This means you bought something at a higher price and now eventually when you want to get rid of it, it's going to be a lower price. So this is a classic buy high, sell low scenario for the Wall Street bets kids. Not a good option. I've also noticed that cars fall into this liability category too. Because if you think about it, you're spending about 20-30 grand to buy a new car, right? The moment you drive it off the lot, you have already lost a couple grand on the purchase. Now, I'm not saying that this is a bad purchase. There are some advantages to buying things that are going down in value. Number one is that it might help you get rid of stress, might help you with stress, might help you with distracting your mind for some time. You could use it to work on projects. You could even have a great computer to go to school to learn something in school. So eventually, this is going to be an asset that brings you income in the future. But you just have to realize that the money that you spend on this, you're not going to get all of it back. Now, on the other hand, let's talk about an asset. For example, if I went and bought, let's say, $100,000 worth of a certain stock, right? A company stock that actually gave me a $3,500 dividend throughout the year. Now, this would be considered as an asset because I bought it at a certain price, right? But even though the price may go up and down and fluctuate over a period of time, it is generating me a 3.5% dividend over a year. So 3,500 on the 100,000 per year. And now I can use this money to buy liabilities if I wanted. But also stocks have risks, so you want to take that into consideration. A stock won't always go up forever. It can go down too. These are all calculated risks that you have to take. I am not a financial advisor, so I cannot give you advice on what type of stock to buy. Everything I'm talking about here is for entertainment purposes only. Another example is something like a house. This is an asset if you rent it out and it's generating you cash flow, you're paying down the debt, and the price of the property is going up over a period of time. I wouldn't consider a house you live in as an asset because technically you are spending money every month on different items, such as, let's say, you have to repair the roof, you have to upgrade your AC or things like that. You're basically living in it, so it's not really considered an asset. Another type of asset I would consider is gold, because these precious metals go up in value over a period of time. Now, they do not give you any type of dividend or they don't give you any type of cash flow, but the cost of the precious metals normally keep up with inflation. Now, another thing I want to talk about is this Forbes article, and they talk about the definition of someone being rich and wealthy. So, when someone is considered rich, we classify that as someone with a current larger income than fixed expenses. allowing them to live an extravagant lifestyle, says David Morgan, managing partner with the High Net Worth Advisory. But when someone is considered wealthy, their assets are more substantial than their liabilities, allowing the assets to generate an income large enough to cover fixed expenses. So my strategy initially is to keep my liabilities almost to a minimum and keep buying a pile of assets over time. We cannot avoid liabilities over a period of time. Your car is going to break down and you are going to need a replacement car. So please save for it. But you do not need to buy, to me, the way I look at it is I do not need to always buy a new car, because the moment I drive it off the lot, I'm going to lose a couple grand. I don't believe I am in a place to afford such a loss. So I'd rather keep buying investments. Like for me right now, what I've been investing in is the index funds. I buy the whole market. I believe in the United States economy, and so I keep buying the whole market. And over a period of time, this will give the S&P 500 on average has returned about 8 to 10%. I'm good with even a 7% return. And when I reach a certain point, right? For example, let's say I reached $1 million. When I reach that $1 million, right? There's another thing you want to consider. There's this thing called as inflation. I will be making more videos on it. The thing about inflation is that it basically is the decline in your purchasing power for $1. Like now, back in the 1990s, a dollar would get you a certain amount of stuff. And now a dollar won't get you that amount of stuff. For example, you can't get anything at a Dollar Tree anymore. Like the dollar store doesn't represent a dollar anymore. It's $1.25 because of inflation. Because a dollar cannot get you that minimum viable product that you could get for $1 before. So coming back to my story. So yeah, let's say I accumulated $1 million, right? And the market's returning 7%. I could technically pull out 4%, right? Because I would account 3% for inflation, which has been the average over the past so many years. But we can't consider the time after 2020 since inflation has been rampant since then. But I could pull out 4%. And there's this strategy called the 4% withdrawal rate, which I will also make a video on. But it basically lets somebody pull out 4% safely and your money will last for about 30 years on average. So 60 to 90 year old or 65 to 95. Now, not everybody lives long enough to reach 95 years of age, but that is wealth. If you look at it, this person is able to pull out only a certain percentage of their overall assets, and the asset is still growing with the pace of inflation, leading them to have the same amount of assets over a period of time. Now, this will change depending on situation to situation. We might have to run a simulation on it called as a Monte Carlo simulation, which runs millions and millions of cases for a person based on different events that potentially can happen in the future for this individual. I will talk about that in the future too. I'm going to make a lot of videos on stuff like this. So if you're liking the content I'm talking about right now, please hit that like button. Please subscribe to my channel, and follow me along on this journey. So some of the ways to get to this wealthy point, right? There's a few basic fundamentals, you want to have. First thing to get there is we cannot afford to live hand to mouth or basically spend 100% of our income on our expenses. That is the major factor to accumulate assets over a period of time. So the first thing I would highly suggest is everyone have an emergency fund. Now, I prefer a 6-month emergency fund. So basically, you save 6 months of expenses in a high yield savings account is what I would choose. Now the second thing, eventually, once you get your emergency fund, is, to me, I believe, is paying off all your debts. Make sure you want to reduce your expenses to as little that can be taken out of your pocket as much as possible. So when wealth is built, the fundamental is that compound interest on your assets is building over time, and it's just snowballing and becoming a bigger and bigger and bigger investment over a period of time. Credit card debt works in the opposite direction for you for wealth. So this $10,000 next year, if you didn't make a single payment on it, is going to be $12,500. The year after that, it would be compounded because the interest is now 25% on the $12,500. So if you look at it, this is going to keep working against you. So this is the one debt that is extremely dangerous out here. The third thing that is really important is your savings rate. I would like to see getting to a point where you can save 25% of your income and live on only 75% of it. So let's say if you're making $5,000 after taxes, right? You want to live on $3,750 and you want to save $1,250. This way, the $1,250 you're going and buying assets with, and over a period of years and decades, this is going to increase and compound over a period of time, so you can live off this eventually. Now, I know initially it is not going to be possible to save 25% of your income. Initially, I was only able to save about 10 to 15% since my initial income with the first job I had was pretty low. So I could only save about 10 to 15%. But after that, every pay raise I got, every job hop I did, the more my income increased, I tried to make sure I hit my 25%. Once I hit my 25%, then if I'm able to save more after that, I will try my best to slowly increase this over time so that eventually I can retire before the average age of 65 and 67. I do not want to work in my 60s. So we're going to talk about some of the investments I prefer. I prefer investments in index funds, like broad market index funds, mutual funds. Exchange traded funds are really nice too, because there's definitely tax advantages if it's in a regular brokerage account. I will also be making videos on these different types of, indices and mutual funds, and how to read them, and what exactly it means to invest in something. This is going to be something I'm going to be making videos of in the future. So if you want to learn more about building wealth, hit that subscribe button, hit the like on this video, share it with anyone who you think would like this information that I'm sharing, and check out my other videos that are coming out soon.